Namo Doi Sauriyantam, Namo Doi Sauridam, Namo Doi Sauriyam, Namo Doi Saujayam, Namo Doi Sautivavati Savanam, Omkara Mindu Sanyam Santyam Jayanti Yogina, Kamadam Mokshanam Chevam Omkaraya Namo, Mangalam Bhagavan Yoro Mangalam Rupanodani, Mangalam Kunkundari Ujendram Bhusumangalam Namasana Swanam Kutyataka Siti Sovai Navaya
Om Namo Loe Sarvatrika Varti Ariyantam. Om Namo Loe Sarvatrika Varti Siddhanam. Om Namo Loe Sarvatrika Varti Ayaryanam. Om Namo Loe Sarvatrika Varti Ujjayanam. Om Namo Loe Sarvatrika Varti Savanam. Omkaram Bindu Sanyuktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yoginam Kamadam Mokshadam Chaiva Omkaraya Namo Namah. Namah Samay Saraya Swanubhutya Chakasate Chit Sabhavaya Bhavaya Sarva Bhavantarachide Ajnanatimirangana Gnana Anjana Salakaya Chaksurunnitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Tirthankaro Jagatana Jayavanta Varto Omkaranad Jinano Jayavanta Varto Jinana Samo Sarana Sau Jayavanta Varto Netirthachara Jadama Jayavanta Varto Namo Tirthanayakane Namo Omkaranadane Omkara Sangaryotene Namo Te Sri Kunda Kundane Aho Upakara Jinavarano Kundano Dvani Divyano Jina Kunda Dvani Apya Aho Te Guru Kanano Aho Te Bhagavati Matano Dhruva Achalane Anupamagati Pamel Sarve Siddhane Vande Kaho Sutta Kevali Vasita Asamaya Prabhrata Are Eka Suddha Sada Arupi Jnana Darasanamay Kare Kayanyate Maru Jari Paramanu Matra Nathi Hare Jamanetra Temaj Jnana Nathi Karak Nathi Vedak Are Jane Jakar Modaya Nirajara Bandha Temaj Mokshane Om Namah Siddhebhyo Om Siddhebhyo Om Sri Siddhatmane Namaha. Jai Jinendra. Today is April 12, 2017, Wednesday, and we are continuing our discussion on Samasa stanza 11. We have finished the Tika, means the detailed explanation of the stanza, and now we are on Bhavarth, means further explanation. Samasa, the stanza, original stanza is written by Acharya Kundakundev 2000 years back. He was Acharya for sure. He was a Bhavlingi Muniraj. Bhavlingi Muniraj means he externally he had everything that a given Digambar monk is supposed to have it. So means 28 main main thing that he will be following. That's called external clad monk. Means these are the external telltale signs that they follow that conduct extremely closely, extremely critically. And then internally also they have that much purity. Means from if we talk from karma point of view, then they have removed three types of main karmas. It's in Gujarati, it will say, Tran chokdi kashayno abhav. Tran chokdi kashayno abhav. In English language, what we'll say, that three major types of toxic emotions he has removed. Then the question comes, what does three types, how many types of toxic emotions are there? How many types of kashai are there? Well, mainly kashai or toxic emotions are divided into 4 groups, and each group has anger, deceit, ego, greed. So here, anger, deceit, ego, greed, anger, deceit, ego, greed, anger, deceit, ego, greed, anger, deceit, ego, greed. 4 times 4 is 16 types of toxic emotions. So there are four groups are there, out of which Kunkul Acharya Dev, being the external clad monk as well as internal purity, he has removed 3 sets of toxic emotions. What are those names? Number 1 is called Anantanubandhi Kashai. Anantanubandhi Kashai means the toxic emotions which are the reason for binding infinite bonding karma. That's the first one. Then second set is called partial vow preventing passions, or partial vow preventing toxic emotions, which will also have anger, deceit, ego, greed. The first one also has anger, deceit, ego, greed in the infinitely bonding toxic emotions. Anger, deceit, ego, greeds are there. Partial vow preventing passions, they also have anger, deceit, ego, and greed. The third one is complete toxic emotion preventing passions, and they are also anger, deceit, ego, greed. So these 3 guys are already removed from the monk who has external clad also possible, in the sense all 28 original attributes for the monks are been absolutely been followed, and internally the purity of these 3 types of toxic emotions are gone. Fourth one is an extremely feeble type of anger, deceit, ego, greed. It is so feeble that there are names given, that the simile is given. For example, the infinite bonding toxic emotion, infinite karma bonding toxic emotions, Anantanubandhi Kashai. They are like having a mountain, big mountain, and having a breakage in between. This is a line. You are standing you are standing far away, and you can see a line which was broken down. Mountain is broken into 2 parts, and that line will never get together because it's broken. Maybe it was a huge earthquake, and that's what happened. So it remains like that. Infinite karma bonding toxic emotions, Anantanubandhi Kasha, Anantanubandhi Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh. So this type of toxic emotions are extremely hard to pass over. You cannot make that breakage in the mountain, you cannot just make it completely go away. It remains for a long time. Second one, partial vow preventing toxic emotions. This one is present in the first spiritual developmental stage. This one is this will be present in 4th and 5th spiritual developmental stage, mainly 5th spiritual developmental stage. What happens there? These are somewhat feeble toxic emotions compared to the infinitely bonding karma passions. So this second one are as if there is a wet, wet dirt is there, and somebody put the water and everything, and now you have drawn a line in that wet mud. How long that line will remain in wet mud? It will remain till the water gets evaporated with the sun, and thereafter that line will be gone. So that's a partial vow preventing passions. Then that's called apratyakhana varan kashai. What's called apratyakhana varan kashai. Third one is a, we can say apratyakhana, okay. Third one is a pratyakhyana varan kashai, or complete vow preventing passions, or complete vow preventing anger, deceit, ego, and greed. And fourth one is extremely feeble. The third one, they just say how mild they are, as if there is a sand and you draw a line in the sand. How long that line will separate two parts of the sand? Till the wind gets blown and that line gets taken away. The fourth one is a most feeble, extremely feeble, and they are called Sanjavalan Kashai. Sanjvalan, Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh. So how feeble they are? If you are drawing a line in a water, the line keeps on going in the front, and on the back, that line gets erased. It is that feeble types of toxic emotion. First one is a separation between two in one mountain range because of earthquake or whatever. There is a line, and that line cannot get together. Second one is like a mud, that when the mud gets dried out, line goes away. Third is a line in the sand, and fourth is a line in the water. So this gives idea, intensity of the toxic emotions. So the monk, the Kundakund Acharya Dev, on a 6th and 7th spiritual developmental stage, he had removed these three forms of toxic emotions. He has only very, very teeny tiny feeble toxic emotions remained, which are so feeble that he pushes little hard, it goes away. That monk, that Kundakund Acharya Dev, he had also some extraordinary powers.
Here, uncle.
Yeah.
Okay, so when that Jeev got to the 4th Gunsthanak, Anantanabandhe was gone.
Yes.
Then you get to the 5th Gunsthanak, Apratyakhana is gone.
Yeah. And
So then,
Pratyakhana.
Okay.
The 6th is Pratyakhana Varan is gone. 6th and 7th. And then on an 8, 9, 10, and those three Gunsthanak, the Sanjvalan Kashai will be gone.
Okay, uncle, but so do you, from when you go up from 5, do you pass through 6, or do you go from 5 to 7 and then you fall back down through 6?
Yeah. From the 5, you always go to 7. And then when you are in 7, 7th spiritual development stage, in which you are experiencing your internal self, eternal true nature of the self, and that from 5th you go to 7th directly. Now, because those toxic emotions are toxic emotions are still present, that soul comes out from this eternal, indivisible soul's experience. So when it comes out, he comes on the 6th spiritual developmental stage. And from 6, he goes to 7. From 7, he comes to 6. And so he's come 6 and 7. Throughout the day, he keeps on going from one to the other. He wants to stay in 7th as long as possible. But he still has a fruition of the previously bonded karma, And they pull him, because of that thing, he gets pulled out from the seventh. Seventh means a spiritual experience. And when he comes out, that means he's called sixth spiritual developmental stage. What does he do in sixth spiritual development stage? He writes the scripture. He teaches, he just removes the doubts of the students. If student has a question about it, he helps them out to remove their doubts.
So Kiran, here's my question then. Since you mentioned that, in the introduction to Moksha Marg Prakashak, the Doramoji writes about Upadhyay. You know, he describes the Panch Paramastis. And Upadhyayas are described as doing exactly what you just described for the sixth Gun Sthanak. So my question is, are Upadhyayas on the sixth Gun Sthanak?
Yeah. Well, Upadhyay means what happens. Panch Parameshti means Acharya, Upadhyay, and Sadhu. All those three entities out of those five Panch Parameshti, they are on sixth and seventh spiritual developmental state.
Okay.
So what it is, their primary aim is to get engrossed within the eternal self. And that is their main aim. But because there is still some instability in nature, because he still does not have intense personal effort to really get engrossed within the eternal self. And so he comes out and goes to sixth, then seventh, and sixth and seventh, and everything. So
no, I know that, but the reason I'm bringing this up is, you know, you mentioned just now specifically that when they're trying to be an Anubhav, when they're not an Anubhav, in the sixth Gun Sthanak, they're teaching, they're writing. Now that reminded me what Doramoji wrote. Doramoji wrote that sadhus, that munis, when they're not in Anubhav, they're studying. He wrote that Upadhyayas, when they're not in Anubhav, they're teaching. And then he wrote that Acharyas, when they're not in Anubhav, are administrating.
Yeah,
that reminded me.
There's a specific duties assigned to them. So they will have to do those kind of things. But again, that doesn't mean Acharya will do only administrative work. No, I mean, the division of labor is there. For example, principal also will be taking class and teacher also will be taking class. Of course, in our US, everything is different. But back home, for example, principal was a teacher and principal is teaching also. So the teaching doesn't go away. I mean, yes, he's given extra duty for do the administration work, but mainly their aim is to be getting engrossed within. In fact, when you raise that question, it's very, very good question, that Upadhyay is given duty of analyzing scripture. And Acharya is given duty of mainly, quote unquote, administrative duties. What happens? What happens when Acharya is on the deathbed right now, and he knows that he is now living? He is going to leave the body. When he ends up knowing that part, then he gives up his Acharya position. And he becomes regular monk at that time. He becomes regular monk. And that's why monkhood, the Panch Parameshti, fifth one is sadhu, that is very important position. Because even Acharya also will give up his administrative duties and he will become now monk and he will try to get engrossed within his self, and that's it. So that's why monk is very important. And that's why it's been said that even Gandhar Bhagwan, the first disciple of the Tirthankar Bhagwan, they also bow down to the sadhu. In Moksha Marg Prakashak it says that even Gandhar Bhagwan will also bow down to sadhu. Because that's very important. The main thing is sadhu. Main thing is that position is important. And then Upadhyay is given extra duties of analyzing, and Acharya is given extra duties of administration. But main thing is sadhu there, you know. So that was a good question that you raised. It clarifies some of the doubts about Acharya, Upadhyay, and sadhu for us, you know.
Kiritanko, these 14 Gunsthanak stages are just for the human body, right? No Dev Devis or no other.
No, actually.
Just human body, right?
Well,
and no other substance.
Okay. Number one, let's put it there. What is spiritual development stage? What is Gunsthanak? What is Gunsthanak? Gunsthanak means a purity generating, impurity diminishing. Two things. Purity gets generated, progresses, and impurity keeps on coming down, and mixture of that makes it 14th spiritual developmental stage. In the if you go in a somewhat detailed analysis of that, then the more means infatuation, and yog means mind, speech, and bodily action. It's conventionally we can just say yoga, but again, let's put it that one, yoga also. So more and yoga, infatuation and mind, speech, and body's activity combined together makes 14 stages. Now, who can have it? Any living being can have it. Now, so for example, I have infatuation and I have a mind, speech, and body activity going on. So I'm, what place I am on? I'm on first spiritual developmental stage. Now, I removed the, out of that deluded state, infatuated state, I removed intense bonding, karma, passions I removed. Means I have some purity started and some impurity decreased. So I'm at fourth spiritual stage where human, angels, heavenly angels, five sentient animals, and even the infernal life can come up to fourth spiritual development stage. But thereafter, to go to 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and beyond, that is only possible in human.
So when you're saying spiritual, Dev Devis can go only up to fourth spiritual stage, and then that's it. Then you have to be human to go higher.
Yes.
Now I get it. Okay.
Now, and now that as you asked that question, what happens when Bhagwan is born, for example? Then there are 5 auspicious events are taken place. Conception event, when the mother conceives the soul in the body, in the womb. Then birth event, Janma Kalyana. Then initiation event, Diksha Kalyana. Then omniscience event, Keval Gnan Kalyana. And last one is a Nirvana event, when he goes to Adobhyab Siddha. When that Tirthankar child is born, conceives and born, and now, for example, if you take Mahasaya Bhagwan, then age 30, he becomes monkhood. He gives up the palace and everything. He gives up kingdom and all the things. And now he's going from the palace to jungle. And at that time, heavenly angels celebrate the event, and they bring the palanquin, palki, in which the prince he'll be sitting there. And then now the question comes, who is going to lift up that palanquin first? And heavenly angels and humans, there is a dialogue going on. And those are the things, when you attend some of the Panchkalan Pratishtha, then you can witness those dialogues, and they are beautiful, meaningful dialogues are there. Heavenly angel says, you, oh human, you are dirty, you have perspiration, you have defecation, you smell and all the things and everything, you have disease and everything. Look at us. We have fantastic body, we have money, we have external, all kind of things that describe. And they said, we have the right to lift up the palanquin first. And then human says, no, and all this argument occurs. And finally, human says, okay, okay, okay. If that is the case, you have external wealth and physical body and everything, but can you have sanyam? Can you take the vow of remaining into celibacy and all those further vow? Can you take it? And heaven, those angels says, no, we can't. So when they say we can't, that means you are inferior to human. And so now humans lift up the palanquin because they have the right to go from fourth to fifth to sixth to whatever. That's why humans are perceived to be superior than heavenly angels. Heavenly angels, they may have a prosperity, extra, but so what? It means nothing. So because if one dies, then after everything is lost. Then why to worry about all those things? So those are the things to consider. So now we came down to this topic all the way from Kunkun Acharya Dev, that he had an extraordinary capacity that he can walk into the space also. So he had certain questions in his mind about spirituality that were not getting clear. So he went with his physical body, he went to Mahavidya Kshetra, area of Mahavidya, land of Mahavidya. He was in he used to be just like us in land of Bharat. Now he goes to land of Mahavidya. There he goes and listens to Simanta Swami's discourses, and then after he stays there for 8 days, then he comes back and then he creates these scriptures: Samesa, Pravachansa, Niyamsa, Astapahod, Panchastikaya. All the scripture he creates. And we are extremely, extremely fortunate that we have those things available today. And we are studying from that because he absolutely talked to, listened to the omniscient Lord. And then he came and wrote the scripture. That's why they are extremely authentic scripture. So the stanzas, 415 stanza, quote unquote, we are on 11 stanza. That is written by Kunkun Acharya Dev. Then, after 1,000 years of Kunkun Acharya Dev, Kunkun Acharya Dev was 2,000 years back. Now, after 1,000 years of Kunkun Acharya Dev, there is another eminent monk occurred, and that's called Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev. Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev. And he wrote down critiques on those stanzas. So 11 stanzas is 2 lines, which Kunkun Acharya Dev wrote down, but this Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev gave explanation, which is called Tika, that we studied so far on the 11th stanza. Now, about 300 years back, 300 to 400 years back, another Acharya came down, and that's called Jaichandji Chabla, Pandit Jaichandji Chabla. And he gave further explanation for mundane soul like us who cannot digest the intense analysis of Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev, and he kind of watered down version for us to understand. And that bhavarth we are talking right now, that bhavarth we are going through in this stanza. So what happens in that stanza? Let's see where we were there last time and come down. Any questions so far? Because this is historical part, it's very good for us to understand, because it takes lots of meaning. That remember, 2,000 years back something written, and 1,000 years back something else wrote down, and about 128 years back Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami was born, and he further explained everything to us, and he put it in our own words, and he explained to us repeatedly again and again and again and again. That's why we are extremely, extremely, absolutely fortunate that we have all these things available today, and sitting in our own home, so far away from the back home, we are able to understand the scripture, and not only understand, we are able to follow all those principles too. So those are the things that we are doing. So now we are going to go to wherever we are left out last time. So let's go from there. We were here. Okay, we were on this slide. Quickly, we'll just pass through and then absolute form and then conventional form. Conventional form over here is Shubharag Acharya Devi is using. Conventional form, he's using auspicious inclination only. He doesn't use the inauspicious inclination because inauspicious inclinations are bad, to be taken out. No philosophy of this world will say that you practice inauspicious inclination. So inauspicious inclination, it's out already. But even auspicious inclination is called conventional form. And as we are learning in stanza 11, that when we are talking absolute form, that even conventional forms are also to be discarded. You mean my auspicious inclination needs to be discarded? Yes. Then what am I going to do? Well, Acharya Bhagavan says, the three things you can do, three things a given living being can do it. Inauspicious inclination, auspicious inclination, and to be getting engrossed in the eternal true nature of the self. Only three things one can do it. Inauspicious, auspicious inclinations, and getting engrossed in the innate form. This auspicious, inauspicious inclination, Acharya Bhagavan has put in one only, one category, and that is called impure inclinations or conventional form. So auspicious and inauspicious both are combined together called conventional form. That means, shall I not do donation tomorrow? Shall I not do swadhyay tomorrow? Shall I not go to temple tomorrow? Remember, if I'm not doing auspicious thing, and if I'm not in the innate form, what else is remaining for me? Inauspiciousness. Do I want to do that? No, nothing in the universe will tell you, no philosophy will say that do inauspicious thing. So I don't want to do inauspicious thing. I'm not in the innate form. What shall I do? There's only one thing remaining. People, some of the mumukshus went to Gurudev Sri, Gurudev Kanji Swami, and said, Gurudev Sri, we don't want to do inauspicious thing. We are not in the experiencing phase, means we have not touched the innate form. What shall we do? So their intention was that Gurudev will say, do the auspicious thing. But it's our Gurudev. He has in spirituality in his every microscopic molecule in his physical body. So what does he say? Okay, it's very nice that you don't want to do inauspicious thing. You don't have, you are not in innate form. What shall we do? Go and practice what? How can you go in the innate form? So right away he raises bar so high. So to go there, what do I have to do? I don't want to do this one. I'm not here. I want to practice. I want to do practice to go here. That means I have to do this one. But that is means, not the end. Auspicious thing will be, auspicious inclination will be a means to achieve this kind of innate form. So those are the things that it should be clear in our mind. One will do puja, bhakti, swadhyaya, vrat, tap, jap, all those things he will do it. But his main aim is to reach to the ultimate, means experiencing phase. So absolute form, conventional form, absolute right faith, experiencing eternal true nature of the self. And conventional right faith means 8 pillar of right faith, like no desire, free from fear, no doubts, etc. And actually, in this Mahavir Jayanti, last weekend, last Sunday, our class, my class, we have the, I take the class, and we presented 8 pillars of right faith, and Nisankit, Nikankshit, Nirvichikitsa, Amur Drashti, Upaguhan, Sthitikaran, Vatsalya and Dharma Pravana. Those 8 pillars represented. But they are also conventional form. Ultimately, absolute form is to experience the eternal soul. That's from the right faith perspective. Right knowledge perspective, knowledge of the eternal soul and associated bliss. That will be the right knowledge. And over here, there are also 8 pillars of right, 8 pillars of right knowledge. There is a typo here. Right knowledge, like reading, writing, pronouncing every letter. Those are the things. Sometimes when the time comes, we'll be going through those things. It's very, very, very interesting thing. And the third thing is a right conduct, means getting engrossed in the eternal trueness of the self. And externally, we'll see 13 pillars of right conduct, like 5 vows, 5 carefulness, and 3 restraints. If time permits or sometime occasion occurs to you, then there is a right faith, right knowledge, right conduct, means Ratnatraya, means the 3 jewels, the right faith, right knowledge, right conduct. And there is a Vidhan, means longer version of puja is there. And that puja will describe 8 pillars of right faith, 8 pillars of right knowledge, 13 pillars of right conduct. But ultimately it will say, you have to go within, you have to go within. So that kind of Vidhan also is, it can be performed, and it gives lots of meaningful things there. And having said that, the next set of slides, they give a little bit more detail about those 8 pillars of right faith. That means free from doubts about nature of elements, nishankit, no desire for worldly comfort, nikankshit, non-repugnance at afflicted ones. For example, if we end up meeting a Digambar monk, what does he have? How many possessions he has it? He has a physical body as his possession. Then he has a more pichi, means there's a whisk made up of a peacock's feather. And then the third one is a kamandal, is a wooden bowl that he is carrying. Then you can say, wait a second, he does carry something. Yes, he does carry something. Means the whisk he's carrying, it is mainly when he's walking to make sure intentionally or unintentionally, no living being, even microscopic, can get hurt. So he uses that whisk to make sure that his path is clear of any organisms as much as possible. He's carrying that a wooden bowl type of thing called kamandal, because when he has to clean his body, like excreta and urination, etc., then he is using water to make sure the excreta and urination gets disposed properly. He doesn't use that water for drinking purpose, because the excreta and urination he just disposes of in such a way that no organism can grow. So he's using that kamandal for that purpose. So he has a physical body, kamandal, and pichi. 3 things will be seen. Physical body, he has really detached himself, and so he doesn't take shower, he doesn't take bath, he doesn't clean his teeth and everything. He plucks his own hair and everything. So looking at the monk, there may be, I may probably end up seeing that he is not clean. There is some, maybe quote unquote, some smell coming out. Then the Samyak Darshi Jiv, the one who has a right faith, one who is experiencing the self, then he does not have, he has non-repugnance at the afflicted ones. Means he doesn't feel bad about it, because he's looking beyond. He's looking that, listen, this monk has removed 3 types of toxic emotions, and I'm full of all 4 with me. He has only 1 with him. So he is almost ready to take on the 4th one, and he is almost ready to become omniscient Lord. So that's why the Samyak Darshi Jiv, he will be having non-repugnance to afflicted ones. Then non-perplexed in omniscient Lord, scripture and enlightened teachers, that's called Amurdrashti. Right faith person hides others' fault and does not eliminate his own achievement, that's called Upaguhan. Then ensuring steadiness of right faith and conduct for others who are prone to swerve from the path, that's called Sthitikaran. There's again typo. I'm lots of time I could be sleeping, I guess, when I write this one. 7 is fraternity towards co-religion is Vatsalya Ang, and 8 is propagation of teaching of Jina Pravana. So these are the 8 pillars. These are the 8 external 8 telltale signs in that Samyak Drashti Jeev, that we'll be able to see that one. When the time comes, maybe somewhere in the future, whatever, we'll go in detail of each and every of these things. Actually, you know what? I have a write-up on that one, because what we did in Mahavir Jayanti, I'll mail it out to you. So at least you can have it. And if you want to go in detail, there are references are given there. So these are the Samyak Darshan. Samyak Darshan living being has this 8 external telltale sign, and they are called conventional form. And conventional form means what? When there is associated with the absolute form, then and then conventional form is labeled as conventional form. Means this right faith person has experiencing of the soul has occurred, and that's why he's on at least 4th spiritual development stage. He could be 5th, he could be 6th, but at least he is minimum 4th spiritual development stage. Means he is experiencing of the self. When experiencing of the self has occurred, then externally this will be the telltale sign on that individual.
So Kirtanko, are these 8 things the conduct after someone has acquired right faith?
These are called the right conduct, Samyak Charitra.
Aren't these conduct? These 8 points, aren't these related to conduct?
Yes, they are conduct. They are conduct. Yes, you are right. I said, you know, because actually a couple of days back a question was raised to me by somebody that on 4th spiritual development said there is no conduct. On 5th onward the conduct starts, and then one has to understand the nitty-gritty things of what Samyak Darshan means. Remember, from karma perspective, we just say Samyak Darshan means one who has removed at least infinitely bonding karma, toxic emotions are taken away from him. So he has only 3 sets of toxic emotions remaining. One at least is gone. One means infinitely bonding karma, passions are gone. Infinitely bonding toxic emotions are gone. Infinitely bonding anger, deceit, ego, greed are gone. And when they are gone, what happens? Then he has this kind of things will be seen in that person, and that means he has started some kind of purity of conduct. Beginning of conduct means beginning of purity has started. That means that beginning of purity is called conduct. Means he has a conduct at 4th spiritual development stage. But compared to 5th, 6th and beyond, this is kind of very beginning. And that's why it has been said that there is no conduct. So we have to understand what perspective the particular word is used. And as long as we are aware of it, then we can use the word any way we like it. And as you said, can this be a conduct? Yes, they could be conduct right away. Yes, you are right. So Samyak Darshan means a right faith. Samyak Jnan is a right knowledge. And when there is always there's a conduct. It could be minimal conduct or it could be intense conduct, but those gradation will be there. Conduct will occur in stages. Samyak Darshan is all or none. Either you have it or you don't have it. So that's it. And Samyak Jnan is also right knowledge, is also, it purifies gradually, but it starts with the right faith. Right faith means right knowledge. Both are together. Okay, so that's a samyak darshan, the telltale sign for them from external sign. Now, right knowledge. There are also 8 forms that we talked about. What are those things? Reading, writing, pronouncing every letter and words correctly. It's called Vyanjanachar. Understanding the meaning and the full significance of words, phrases, and text is called Arthachar. And reading, writing, speaking with full proper understanding of the import of what is read, written, and spoken is called Ubhayachar. Means the first one is, for example, let's say that I'm reciting Bhaktamar every day. Then, am I pronouncing the words properly? I was listening to lectures on Bhaktamar by Bal Brahmachari, Sumit Prakashji. He is an extremely great orator. And each and every word he dissects and says, what's the meaning of this word? And he said how to pronounce those words and everything. So number one, you have to pronounce the word properly. Our children, small kid who just learned speak, and we just say Namo Yantalam, and he will speak in a garbage language. But he will speak. Ultimately, we will keep on telling him, no, you have to pronounce this way, and ultimately he'll be able to pronounce properly. He may not understand the meaning, but pronunciation is important. That's the first one, Vyanjanachar. Then understanding that thing, what is Namo Aryantanam means what? I bow down to Aryan Bhagwan. What is Aryan Bhagwan? Then you go to Moksha Prakashak, you go to the first chapter, you just read the nature of Aryan, and then you say, oh my God, is this the Aryan? So I understood the meaning of it. So I understand the meaning, I pronounce, and third one is pronunciation is proper and understanding is also proper. See, if I am understanding, but my pronunciation is not there, that's not right. If I pronounce okay, but I don't understand, that's not right. So third one is mixture of both. That's called Ubhayachar. Ubhay means both combined together. Fourth one is a Kalachar. This is really very nice. Observance of regularity, punctuality, and of propriety of time. Improper and unsustainable occasions should be avoided. Kalachar means when to read the scripture in 24-hour days time. And specifically, literature says certain times one should avoid reading those scripture. Very, very highly microscopic scripture or very detailed analysis of the spirituality aspect of scripture to be avoided certain times of the day. What are those times? This is literature says. Sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight. Sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight. 4 times, 48 minutes before, 48 minutes after. One should not do the intense study of the very, very subtle form of spirituality. Because they say your receptivity is down at that time. When I was a small kid, my grandma, I was about 6 or 8 years old or whatever, and my grandma in a small village in Saurashtra had gone for vacation, and she used to say, no, you can't say Namoka Mantra in the evening. I said, what's wrong with that? I want to say. She said, no, you can't. Now, after several decades, I understand that why she was telling me that way. Because some of the intense spiritual reading to be about means you can do the conduct related scripture or you can read the scripture of the story related scripture, but the detailed microscopic subtle form of a scripture one should try to avoid. So that specific things are given for that. Thereafter comes revered reverent attitude Vinayachar. I have to give the respect to the teachers who are teaching me, the scripture who is teaching me. And this Vinayachar is so important. As I think I may have said in one of the previous class, when I was in Mangalayatan and I learned a lot I mean, it's the daily reading is there, daily learning is there. What it is, they follow extreme tight schedule for giving respect to the scripture, because omniscient Lord is my religious father, and scriptures are my religious mother. So religious scriptures are given the simile of the mother. Would you give the respect to your mom or not? Yes. So when you are touching the scripture, first thing, one has to wash the hands. Why do we have in all the temples, there's a water water thing outside, water faucet outside? We wash the hands and then we enter the temple. Same way, when we read the scripture, we have to wash the hands and then read the scripture. Then scripture needs to be put in certain fashion that we respect that one. We just put a small table, we put the scripture there when we start reading. When we are reading, doesn't mean that we can just read while we are sleeping or while we we stretch our legs and everything. No, you should be folded legs and everything, or if you're sitting in a chair, sit properly, and those kind of things. So scripture needs to be given proper respect, and that's coming in the right knowledge, external telltale sign. Then comes propriety of behavior, updanachar. Our behavior should be particular way towards the right knowledge. And again, we can go in detail later on. Then comes, next one comes Bahumanachar, means my religious teacher needs to be respected a proper way. When we go to see a monk, there is certain way we respect the monk. We tell monk, Namostu, Namostu, Namostu. What does Namostu? If I meet you, you meet me, we can say Jai Jinendra. But when we meet monk, we just say Namostu. So that means it's a zeal, means it's a real kind of a behavior we have to have it. And then last one is called no concealment of knowledge or its sources. Aninvachar means I don't have to hide from where I got the knowledge. I have to say, Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami taught this thing to me. It doesn't make difference wherever I am. I cannot hide the spiritual teacher who taught me all these things. So these are the right knowledge. And again, these are from the conventional aspect, remember? Now, I may have all those things with me, but I don't have experiencing of the soul. That means they are not even called conventional form. So are we practicing all these 8 things right now? Yes, but do we have right knowledge right now? I mean, right knowledge and right faith? Well, no. If that is not the case, then we are studying this kind of things. It is not from the experience. It is an indirect way. Whatever is been said scripture, we know these things and we follow that thing. So that kind of thing we have to understand. Then comes 13 pillars of right conduct. What does it mean? The 5 great vows are there, 5 carefulnesses are there, and 3 restraints are there, and then names 5 vows of non-violence, non-stealing, non-lying, celibacy, non-possessive. And we already have gone through Patshala for those things. We already know that, so we won't go in detail. 5 carefulnesses means samitim, means to move about cautiously so as to cause trouble to no living being is called Iriya Samiti. Then to speak what is true, beneficial, measured, and free from doubt is called Bhasha Samiti. Means when you're talking, you have to really speak truth, and it should be beneficial to somebody, and you should not speak the lie. So it's a Bhasha Samiti, means he is very careful in speaking. To act cautiously while seeking to procure such means necessary for the conduct of the life journey as are free from defects. Eshna Samiti means if he's sitting also certain place, he will use the whisk and then he will clean it out. If he's taking the scripture, he'll properly take it properly and all the things. So that's called Eshna Samiti. to receive and place anything whatsoever after the proper inspection and proper cleansing of the dust, etc. is called Adan Niksepan Samiti. That means it, and then to dispose of things that are of no use at a place free from living body and after proper inspection. Utsarg Samiti. Utsarg Samiti means when he is going for defecation, urination, then he disposes of in such a place where there are no living bodies are there, and proper inspection, and he will do that one. So these are the 5 carefulnesses that has been practiced in the conduct. And then 3 restraint, 3 gupti, while receiving or placing anything whatsoever, while sitting, getting up, or walking in all such act, so to restrict bodily operation that discrimination is maintained between what is to be done and what is not to be done is known as Kai Gupti. He is he will use minimal use of the body, and wherever he has to use it, then and then he will use it, and that's called restraint. He will be restraining his physical body and uses only when he has to. Same thing with Vachan Gupti. He will speak only what is to be spoken, and he cannot keep on just blabbering continuously for no reason. And the Man Gupti means again to give up volitions, means inclinations that are evil or are mixture of good and evil, as also to cultivate volition that are good. That is called restraint pertaining to mind. Means he is trying to control his mind by not to have bad inclinations coming in the mind. Even good inclination also he's trying to control it and try to remove it. Ultimately his aim is to go within. So these are the 13 pillars of the right conduct. So those are the things, because again weight is given here that those things occur, but remember they are the conventional form. And conventional forms are only called conventional when it is associated with the absolute form. So now let's presume that I'm observing 5 vows completely. I'm a naked monk right now, and I'm observing 5 vows completely. I'm also doing 5 restraints completely, and 3 restraints and 5 behavior. I'm doing all those 13 conduct related things absolutely perfectly. I'm following, but I don't have experiencing the self. Then I could be called external clad monk. Means nothing. All right? I'm following all this thing tightly. Nothing, because there is no experiencing. And Acharya Bhagavan, Gurudev Sri Kanjiram says, how many times you did this kind of thing in the previous lives? Infinite times I did those kind of things, in which I observed 5 hours completely, restraint and carefulness is everything I observed completely, so complete that I'm in a meditative state, somebody comes and removes my skin completely and also sprinkles salt over it, then also there is no anger seen in a corner of the eye. That kind of intense conduct this soul has observed in the past without any experience of the soul. And because of that thing, they all became useless. So we have to understand these are the pathways, they will come, but again my aim is to have experiencing soul, and that I have never done so far before. Why I have not done it? How do I know that I have not done it? Because I am also still having in transmigratory cycle. I keep on wandering. That's why I have not got experience of the soul. Once I get experiencing of the soul, I keep on start climbing ladder of spirituality from 4 to 5 to 6, 7, and the beyond. So here, enlightened soul has associated conventional state, vyavhar, present, but the fruition of it is only transmigration. Now, all this 13 conduct, 8 types of knowledge, 8 types of faith. Those 8 faith, 8 knowledge, 13 conduct, all those conventional forms, I keep on observing. Whether I have an experiencing of the soul or whether I don't have experience of the soul, I keep on observing those things. Observing means conventional, means it gives fruition of karma, means it gives transmigration. Human Kunkun Acharya Dev, Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev, and Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami, they all are still in transmigration? Yes. But I am in the middle of the ocean and they are almost at the bank of the ocean. They are almost at the beach level. That they are going to come out of the ocean pretty soon. Why? Because every conventional activity I perform, all those 13, all those of 8 plus 8 plus 13 things we talked about, they are conventional form, means they are instability of the soul's conduct. Because of the instability, it is inviting new karma bondage, and new karma bondage comes in fruition, and you end up with the fruition of those karma in the future life. So, Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami, Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev, Kunkun Acharya Dev, because of their purity, they are that much purity of the soul they are experiencing, but there is also partial impurity still present, and because of the partial impurity present, now they are in Swarg. They are in the heavenly life. Then they will come back as a human, they'll intensify this personal effort, and then they will end up going to moksha. Gurudev Kanji Swami will have a 2 human lives will occur, and the Kunkun Acharya Dev will have a 1 life, and those kind of things will happen. When we say 2 lives, means 2 human life. 1 life means 1 human life. And that raises the question that in Srimad Ji, people keep on asking, people say, he is in the Mahavida Kshetra, he has a Keval Gnan right now, he is in Simanda Swami's Samosra and all the things. These are not right from scriptural perspective. They could be right from your faith perspective, that because I adore my Srimad Ji and all the things. But ultimately, he is also in a heavenly life right now. Now, whether he is in heavenly life or whether he's in Mahavida Kshetra, whether he's having Keval Gnan or whether he has Kraik Samkhya, whatever about Srimad Ji. These are same questions were asked to Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami also. The people will come and say, Gurudev Sri, please tell us, where is Srimad Ji? Is he in a heavenly life or is he in the Mahavida Kshetra? Does he have Keval Gnan or whatever? And you know what was the answer from Gurudev Sri Kanji Swami? He said, I know where Kripala Devi is. Tell us, please tell us, Gurudev, where is he? He is in his Atma. He's engrossed in his Atma. That is most important. Yeah.
Isn't that what Swamiji said about Bhagwan Shri Krishna, not Srimad Ji?
Srimad Ji also, he said the same thing also. And Krishna Bhagwan also, Krishna Maharaj also, he said the same thing. Yes.
Kirit Bhai, actually Gurudev Rakesh Bhai in the last satsang he said that, or recently he said that he's not going to heaven, Swarga.
Yeah, you know.
See, if there is Samyak Darshan, then there is Swarga, correct? You said that human life is not.
Samyak Darshi Jeev after Samyak Darshan will always go to Swarg only.
Unless the Aisha was done before Samyak Darshan.
And for example, who is our new Tirthankar coming next?
Shrenik Maharaja.
Shrenik Maharaja, because he insulted that monk by throwing the dead snake in his neck while monk is meditating, so that that kind of a small little act also for the worthy soul to do it, it is reason for him to go to seventh narak. That he acquired the life of narak at the time, but thereafter he had Shaik Samyak Darshan, everything, so it became Ayu of the first narak, but he's still there. 84,000 years he'll be there, and then he'll become Tirthankar. So unless that Ayu is bonded before Samyak Darshan, then he can go to any of the four realms of existence. But after Samyak Darshan, that soul goes to Swarg only. These are the principles laid out in Karnani Yoga principles and Dhaula.
Yeah, that's right. That's why when I heard that, I was kind of, and some actually Hasmukh Bhai from Florida today was saying,
Yeah.
you know Laghurat Swami.
It's okay. I mean, you know what? Important thing what we have to see, Ben, over here. What do I gain out of it? Let's argue this thing to and fro for hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever. What does it mean ultimately to me? Is Srimadji's message more important, or very Srimadji is more important? Well, Srimadji is sitting in moksha. What difference does it make to me? Or Srimadji is in a Mahadev Kshetra, or he gave Vachanamrut to me, and he gave those principles laid out to me.
Kiranko, what about, and like you said, who cares? What about those Munirajas who are sitting in the 7th Gun Thanak right now?
Yeah, so they don't care about it. No, if they will not progress from 7 to 8, 9, 10, or that ladder, then upon their leaving the body, they will go to Swarg as a 4th Gunsthana. Kunkun Acharya Dev has a 4th spiritual development stage right now in the heaven. Gurudev has a 4th spiritual development stage in heaven. So now you imagine, you are over here, 6th and 7th Gunsthana, and in 7th Gunsthana, if you got engrossed within yourself for 48 minutes, you climb the ladder of annihilation ladder and go to 12th Gunsthana just like that. And from 12th, you go to 13th, you become Kevali. That much narrow, that much close you are to become omniscient. And now your effort becomes somewhat less intense, and you end up dying, and then you go to Swarg, and then you are on 4th spiritual stage. From 6th and 7th to go to 4. Is it happy? Are they happy there? Are they going to say, oh yeah, let me enjoy this one for 33 Sagropam years? No. He is lounging to go within. He is lounging to that, when do I finish this life and go to human and intensify my effort and go to the moksha right away. So yes, Muniraj, not Muniraj, we are talking Kunkun Acharya Dev. He's in Swarg, and he'll be there for God knows how many years and how many Sagropam years, and then he will become human and will be liberated.
No, my point is, though, I think it's interesting and amusing that we dwell on, these personalities because we admire what they wrote and what they taught us.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, right now, there's some Muniraj somewhere, or several, who are sitting up there on 7th Gunsthana, and they couldn't care at all about any of this.
And same way, I knowing the things, I shouldn't care for it. I mean, if somebody says, okay, such and such personality, such and such place, okay, what difference does it make to me? I'm first right now. And who am I? What is my reason? Where I am? I'm standing in the first spiritual development stage. I'm Mithyatva, and I keep on arguing what is about 6th and 7th and 13 and all that. Who cares? It just, Srimadji wrote a very nice poem for that. Apavati nija mati mapai me mani che. When I open my hand, then I find out that I have nothing in my hand. When I open my mouth, people will find it out who am I and how ignorant I am. So sometimes silence is a virtue. You don't have to open your mouth and start arguing everywhere unnecessarily. So why to worry about it? It's okay. I mean, if you believe Srimadji is here, we don't have to worry about it. So those are the things that we have to think about, right? So coming back to any question, these are points that we have to understand, and people will have the reasoning also. It's okay. I mean, I'm not worried. I'm only worrying about me. What can I do for myself to improve next moment? That's all I care for. Enlightened soul has associated conventional state means only enlightened soul has associated conventional state. I can have exact same way I follow all the conventional state, but I don't have associated enlightenment, then it is not also called conventional state also. It's called fallacy of conventional state. Moksha Prakasha, 7th chapter, there's a fallacy of absolute state, fallacy of the conventional state, and fallacy of absolute plus conventional state. Beautifully it is mentioned, and it is so concise that it will make really, really very concentrated mind. One has to read those things to understand what Pandit Toramalji is trying to explain to us. Ignorant soul has only fallacy of conventional aspect, means he is a vyavara bhas. He has no conventional aspect. I am observing all those rules, regulations that monk is observing, but still I don't have conventional aspect because I don't have enlightenment, and that's why it's called fallacy of conventional aspect. Ratnakant Savakacharya stanza 33, it says, Gruhastho moks margastho nirmoho naiva mohavana anagaro gruhi sayyana nirmoho mohino mune. Means householder who has self-realization. Householder, we are talking householder right now on 4th spiritual development stage, may appear to be enjoying worldly pleasure with his wife and physical amenities, but still on the path of liberation. The householder, we are the householder. Let's presume that we got an experiencing of the soul. We still continue doing our business. We still continue to maintain our family and all those things. But still, that soul is on the path of liberation. Someone who has discarded all the clothes, he became naked saint, could be sleeping on the floor, could be accepting tasteless food, also believes that these are the religious activity. Remember those things. He's doing all the conduct, strict conduct following, he's doing it. And he believes that they are religious activities. Then he's on the wrong faith state. It is the path to increased transmigration. This is Ratnakant Savakacharya in stanza 33, it says that way. Conventional form describes in the scripture gives fruition in the form of transmigration. Conventional form describing the monk, the Kunkun Swami, let's put it Kunkun Swami right now. When he's on 6th spiritual development stage and he's writing scripture for us, he's doing the absolute, he did absolute fantastic job for us by writing scripture. But at that time, he was in 6th spiritual state, and because of that thing, he was binding karma. Of course, it was auspicious karma bondage, but bondage of the karma was there, and because of the bondage of karma, he has to get fruition of those karma. And that fruition of karma will be transmigration. Of course, Kunkun Swami's transmigration is going to be one life only. From heaven life, he'll come to human life, and then he'll get liberation. That's it. But still, it's a transmigration. One who takes the side of the pure point of view ends up with liberation. One who has gone to pure point of view means detailed experiencing of the soul and getting engrossed within, then he is on the path to liberation. So, Kunkun Acharya Dev on the 6th spiritual development stage, where he is doing all the auspicious activity, that's karma bondage, that's transmigration. When he's on the 7th spiritual development stage, when he's in the experiencing phase, and that experiencing phase means he is on the path to liberation at the time. So both the things are going parallel. This is picking up speed slowly, and this one becomes less and less intense, and ultimately this becomes liberation. But ultimately, those two things are going in parallel to start with. Experiencing phase and the instability of the instability state. Instability means he is not able to remain in his true form. That's why he comes out. That means he's having instability there to remain inside. He's not able to stay inside, so he's an instability state. So instability state gives transmigration, and experiencing phase is on the path to liberation. So this kind of thing, the idea has to be clear in our mind. What to do once we know this kind of ideas, automatic my behavior will go accordingly. A water will always flow down. No matter where the water is, it will always look for the slope and will start going down. Once I understand who I am, what is my real nature, what I should be doing, if I understand that pathway in my brain properly, then my conduct will occur on that direction only. If my aim is to make money only, money only, then Sutton's law in medicine. Willie Sutton was a robber, and one time he has been asked, when he was caught, he was an expert robber. And when finally police caught up with him, and Willie Sutton was caught, and they said, Willie Sutton, why did you rob the banks only? What did he say? That's where the money is. So if you want to make money, you can make it. How to make it, you will find that way out. If you want to have liberation, you understand that part, your conduct will go that side only. Your conduct will go in that direction only. Water will start flowing downward only. And so you don't have to be taught what to do. Now, knowing all these things right now you go out and I would like to steal $100. I want to steal some money from somebody. Would you have that idea at all? No, because that idea it's already died down long back in your mind when you started going on the spiritual pathway to understand spirituality and everything.
Dear Uncle, I understand what you're saying.
Huh.
And this may not refute or contradict your previous slide, but it does give a different way of looking at it. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that Kanji told me, it said that how many times have we been essentially Dravyalingi Munis, in the sense of, doing all the Kriya and so on and not experiencing self. But, this slide right here, as well as your analogy of water going downhill, I mean, isn't it fair to say that many, many times, if not all, maybe not all, but most of the time, where there's smoke, there's fire? So if you see Vairagya, if you see intense Vairagya, and that Vairagya shows in your conduct, that more often than not, certainly a majority of the time, something's there.
Well, based on that, we should have Samyak Darshan. If we did Dravyalingi Muni.
No, not what I said. What I'm saying is water flows downhill.
Yes.
And there may be exceptions where water flows uphill. In other words, you have a wife, you have a kid, you have a Ferrari, and so on. And yeah, maybe you might have Samyak Darshan, but the odds of that happening versus the odds of a person who exhibits intense Vairagya without having any further understanding of what's going inside. You have a group of people who exhibit intense Vairagya, and you have a group of people with wife, kids, and Ferrari. The odds are, if you had to put the chips down somewhere, that where you see Vairagya, you might be closer to self-experience.
Yes.
I'll mute myself now.
And I think, that's it's a thought well taken into account, because number one, why will you have Vairagya? See, Gurudev Kanji Swami, he just said, I'm going to go on the top and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to move down at all from my understanding and preaching. So he kept on saying, but then the same Gurudev, was he doing bhakti also? Was he going to temple regularly? I mean, they are the conventional form. Why will he do that? Because to stay away from the inauspicious activity. So he will go to temple also.
And he was also celibate, right?
Yeah, or he's a celibacy from the.
And he was also unmarried, right?
Yep, not married from child.
And he also minimized his possessions, right?
Yep. So, I mean, those things are associated, things are there. But what I kept on pressing the point that internal purity is most important thing, and associated external things will be seen. Now, you have a family, you have a house, you have a car, not Ferrari, you have a car, for example, right? So now, those things are happening to you as a fruition of the past karma to you. You got money today. That's what.
But Kiranko, for every Bharat Maharaja, and for every Marudeva Mata, tell me how many Munirajas are there that eventually attained 14th Gunstan?
Well, how many, at least I have not obtained. That's what I will say, for example. Now,
No, but you understand my question, right? Because you're mentioning Marudeva Mata, these are all exceptions.
Yes.
These are not the norm. So yeah, Srimad Rajchandra had a wife, 4 kids, a career, and yes, he and he had Samyak Darshan, but you don't know that he didn't get Samyak Darshan the first time doing it the conventional way, and pardon my use of the word conventional. So I guess my question is, this is not a comment, it's a question. For every exception, and by exception I'm defining Marudeva Mata, I'm defining Bharat Chakravarti.
Yeah.
These are 2 souls who attained Samyak Darshan via the express route from a sansari living for the first time. Those are the exceptions. For every exception, could you explain to me how many regular routes are there for every exception?
Okay, remember, these are the exceptions are being told for us to be careful not to fall into the pitfalls. So these are the things to be avoided for me only. When Gurudev says that, remember the first bullet, that they are called conventional form, it will give transmigration, means what he's trying to say, that be aware, makes important, the pure point of view is more important in your life, and that has to be very well set in my mind, and then my actions will go in that directions only. Remember, Marichi, Rishabdev's grandson and son of Bharat, who is Chakravarti, universal monarch, he still did not get Samyak Darshan at the time. And his journey from Marichi to Mahavir, it took 1 crore sagropam years almost. So a gradual improvement is going on. Same thing, it will happen to us mundane soul also. Does all this meaning, does it mean that tomorrow morning I'm going to have Samyak Darshan, or next moment I'm going to have it? I can have it, but again, are my efforts going in the directions? My efforts have to be there. So my conduct has to be there, but I don't have to get impressed with looking at somebody's conduct and say, oh my God, that's such a great thing. No.
You're right, but I'll give you the root of my question. Okay, and the reason why I'm bringing this issue up is because what I've encountered is enormous controversy, primarily from the Munidharam followers, who not unjustly, I would say quite rightfully, say that you can't eat, drink, have a good time and then expect Samyak Darshan to have to ring the doorbell, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's the crux of the controversy. So I think that, and I think you stated very diplomatically, although perhaps not emphatically. It's very. I think it's very difficult to avoid Muni Dharam if you really want to reach Samyak Darshan. I suppose it's not impossible. Bharat Chakravarti did it, and Manudeva Matra did it. But if you remove those two exceptions, just from a mathematical perspective, it seems much less likely to achieve Samyak Darshan unless you pass through, or rather, unless you pass internal spiritual development that then reflects on an external level. I think I'll mute myself again.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, because
Kirtanko, could I say something?
go ahead.
Just based on what I hear Ankit saying, I mean, it's really hard to place priority on these topics because we don't have the required Samyak Darshan.
Mhm.
So we have to kind
the
of...
topics are on the two slides. There's this slide and the slide previous. That's why I brought it up.
No, what I understand you saying is that you're trying to say that your Vyavharabhas is important because you should not eat, drink, and be merry. You should
I will
do
refer you
Vyavhara.
to chapter 7 of Moksha Marg Prakashak for definition of Vyavharabhas. What I'm saying is that I think this slide is as important as the previous slide. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, basically, let's put it this way. As long as I as a given soul understands what's a real pathway, where are the pitfalls, what are the pitfalls I should avoid, and then I will follow those things. I will do worshipping, I will do donation, I will do charity, I will observe chastity and all those things. Everything will be there, but that does not mean I'm ahead of you. That kind of thing I have to take. No. This guy doesn't do anything, and look at me. I'm doing all this activity and everything, so I'm better than him. That kind of attitude in my mind has to be clear. So somebody's doing it, so good for that person. Somebody's not doing it, but he knows what's the truth. Knowing is more important. That's why Gurudev kept on saying that you do the Swadhyaya. He kept on hitting that point because that's only the way you will know. How many times you became monks in the past life without experiencing the soul? So those things you have tried and time-tested thing, you have done it, but nothing happened. So why it didn't happen? Because I did not realize what is my true nature. Just because somebody says, okay, you have to do fast today, you have to do Ambel today. I did, but why?
Your uncle, forgive me for interrupting, but that's the second time you said that. How many times have I been a monk? So now I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
How many times have I been a grahastha and gone nowhere? Far more times than I've been a monk.
You don't know that, Ankit. You're making that up. You don't have any...
Let me tell you what I'm not making up. If you read chapter 1 of Moksha Marg Prakashak, since you brought up the Vyavharabhas, if you read chapter 1 of Moksha Marg Prakashak and you read Doramalji's introduction, Kiran uncle, please correct me if I'm wrong. He salutes Panch Parameshti. He doesn't salute Shavaks. He doesn't salute Grahasthas. He salutes Panch Parameshti. And this is a Pandit. This is the same person who defined and set forth the meaning of what you mentioned, Vyavharabhas. So, Kiran uncle, is there a particular reason why he specifically salutes Munis and Vitaragis?
Which Muni? He is bowing down to Bhavlingi Muniraj. Remember, that word is also important. Now question comes, who is Bhavlingi and who is not Bhavlingi? Who am I to decide when I'm Mithyatvi right now? I'm Mithyatvi right now. Do you have Samyak Darshan? No, you don't have it. Does Chirag have Samyak Darshan? No, he can never. Who?
Right. So that's why I didn't make that distinction.
So, not knowing what I have, so now I have only one thing available in front of me that, that person has given up some of the things, he has renounced some of the things, then I should respect that state in by itself. Gurudev also, when he used to give lectures in Songarh, and lots of times Digambar monks used to come, and he will give them special place for them to sit down. I mean, he will respect them. He did not say, yeah.
Can I interrupt? Can I ask you also one more question?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
ભગવાનના સમવસરણમાં ખાલી ભાવલિંગી મુનિ જ હોય છે, દ્રવ્યલિંગી મુનિ નથી હોત?
બધા હોય, દ્રવ્યલિંગી હોય, ભાવલિંગી હોય, everybody is there.
ઓકે, તો નમો લોએ સવ્વ સાહુણા means ભાવલિંગી પ્લસ દ્રવ્યલિંગી.
ભાવલિંગી. નમો લોએ.
તો ભગવાનના સમવસરણમાં બંને છે. ભગવાન એમને સાધુ કહે છે, અને ક્યાંય કોઈ બી જગ્યાએ એવું નથી સ્ક્રિપ્ચરમાં, મને નથી ખબર, તમને વધારે ખબર હશે, કે તમારે દ્રવ્યલિંગીને ની સાથે વ્યવહાર નહીં કરવાનો, ખાલી ભાવલિંગીનો જ કરવાનો.
No, but remember, who am I to know that this is Bhavlingi and this is only Dravyalingi? Do I have that capacity? Am I on a 5th and 6th and 7th spiritual stage? Then I have a right to say, yes, you are Bhavlingi, and no, that guy is Dravyalingi only. How can I know it? I don't know that part. So I just see their external renunciation, and I respect that, and I wish અપૂર્વ આવશે, એવો ક્યારે આવશે, ક્યારે થઈશું બાહ્યાંતર નિર્ગ્રંથ જો. When I see that external clad monk, for example, I don't know his internal state, but can I become that one?
I think that sounds wonderful. However, I will bring it up one more time. Twice you mentioned how many times have I been a muni and gone nowhere, but I didn't hear you say how many times have I been a grahastha and gone nowhere.
Well, if you see, when you talk about how many times I became Dravyalingi, that means infinite times more I was a Gruhastha for sure. What is Gruhastha? Means the one who is observing the code of conduct laid out for a householder. That's called Gruhastha. So, code of conduct I observed in previous lives, so many times I observed. That doesn't mean anything happened. What was central point is I have to have first experiencing of myself, that kind of attitude I have to create. Now, when that belief comes in my mind, then it doesn't make difference what kind of behavior I have it. Of course, your behavior will be auspicious only. You won't be sitting in a pub and says, okay, now I understand that I have to be Samyakdashi first, or I have to experience. No, you will be sitting in temple and talking those kind of things, So those associated conduct will always be there. They are part and parcel of that one. But again, I don't have to get impressed by that, or of course that will come on my way. I want to become Bhavlingi Muniraj, then I will become Dravyalingi somewhere along the line. I will become I'll become Mumukshu, I'll become Sravak, and then I'll go to the 11th Pratima of the Sravak, and then I will become the monk. So those are the laid out principles, are absorbed from conduct related scripture. We laid out those kind of things. What we are talking from the Dravyanu Yoga, that what happens in Dravyanu Yoga, experience first and rest of the things follow. That's the Dravyanu Yoga. But the Charnani Yoga scripture will say you have to have code of conduct as a householder like this, as a monk you have a code of conduct has to be like this, and those things are also discussed. Everything has a central theme to obtain my internal peace with internal experiencing of the self.
Kirtanka, this is not really, I understand what Ankit's making. He makes a very good point. And but this is a nice picture. It's kind of funny. Srimad Rajchandra is walking in it's in our temple in New York, in the jungle, and he has a friend, and he points out a monkey, and he says to his friend that, or he says to the monkey directly, I can't remember, you are enjoying a worry-free and almost vitrag life. Not vitrag, but but worry free essentially. But that's not the way to moksha. You have to have atmagnan. I think was the gist of that message.
So I think, now Ankit's point is coming out from Munipanthi and everything. Rather than me getting bogged down to those kind of argument, what am I? Who am I? What shall I achieve? What is my aim? Where I'm having palace and everything. So I should become self-centered. I should become swarthi, swarthi, means I should just say self-centered. I'm first. What is in for me? Do I learn something from you? That means you are. I respect you from that angle. Do I learn something from the Dragyalingi Muniraj? Can I become a naked monk and start walking tomorrow? Let's try that one. So you have to have guts to do that. And so they have done it. But now I'm not there to say, okay, this is Pahalingi Muniraj and this is Dravyalingi, and so Dravyalingi I don't care about. I don't have to worry about it, that one, because I don't have capacity to know those things. Only the way I'll find out that this is diamond and this is a piece of glass, only when I bring my eligibility to the level of a jeweler, then I can say this is diamond and this piece of junk. So am I at that level to give that kind of a discrimination? I am not. Was Gurudev at that level? Yes, he was. Was Total was at that date? Yes. Amrit Chandra Acharya Dev, they were there at that level, so they can say, I'm not at that level. I'm ignorant. And so I have to understand who am I, where I am, what's my level. And I have to understand that part and then start criticizing other people and all the things. I have no right to criticize other people when I don't know who I am. Right? Well, I think we can just, these are the things to, it's good to have a discussion occur, because these are the frank discussions we are making in ourselves. We are not criticizing or degrading some personality or somebody or anything. We just say what this Gurudev told us, what he taught us, and what path I should learn from that. That's only the aim for us. Conduct will come automatic. Conduct, we don't have to look for conduct. It will come automatic. Well, we are almost 10 minutes above our time for 90 minutes, so we are already gone a lot more. If there is more question, we can leave it for next week and we'll continue. And hey, before we close, did we decide what we are doing for Gurudev's Janma Jayanti? Ankit and
no, we have we need
yeah. Okay, I'll talk to you later on. I think the other people have to disconnect also probably. Okay, we'll talk. I'll call later on, tomorrow maybe. Sarva Mangala Mangalyam Sarva Kalyana Karakam Pradhanam Sarva Dharmanam Jainam Jaitu Sasanam Javani Ki Gyan Se Suje Lokalo Sovani Mastakanam Sadadeta Hundo. 9 times more. Jai Jinendra, Michai Dukram.
મિચ્છામી દુક્કડમ જય જીનેન્દ્ર.
Thank you.
Hey, Jinendra, Michami Dukku.